welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today's video is one we've been looking forward to filming for a really long time.
We really have, and Winter Wilderness Alaska is the topic today. We're going to give you all the juicy bits, all the behind the scenes, and it was actually 7 months ago that we were in Alaska filming the TV show.
It feels like forever, and to be honest, it was actually a year ago this month that we found out we were going on the show, and that's something that a lot of people have asked us about. How did we end up on the show? Did we apply? What's the deal with that?
It was actually our alternative living group on Facebook where we saw one of the producers posted on there about the show and looking for people to apply. And instantly we read it and we were like, right, we're signing up for that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, seeing as we're admins for that group, we have to approve every post that goes in. So we saw it and we were like, we're definitely going to apply. That looks like such a sick challenge. Totally up our street. We want to do that. And then we had a phone call and then didn't hear anything for ages. So we just kind of forgot about it. And then they got back in touch with us in January 2019. And the rest is history, really. It was actually a really interesting process getting onto the show, wasn't it?
Yeah, Alaska's somewhere we've always wanted to visit. So when this came up, this opportunity, we knew we wanted to apply. But the actual way that we managed to get on it wasn't simple at all. We had multiple Skype interviews with different producers. We had probably 20 phone calls. And then once we got through each process, we then had to have a psychometric test with a psychotherapist.
Yeah, psychotherapist through Skype.
Through Skype, who would analyse us and make sure that we were, I guess, mentally stable enough to go on TV and take all of the pressure that goes with that.
Yeah, obviously we are used to being in the public eye because of YouTube, but this is a totally different realm for us. Like, we had someone filming us and we had no idea what the edit was going to be like. So we're just basically like everyone else in this scenario. So I know that mental health is really important. And in these types of programs, you've really got to make sure that the people going on them can handle whatever's going to be thrown at them when the show comes out. So I think that was really good that they did that. And then there was also, we had to see a physician as well, didn't we, in Portugal?
Yeah, we had to get a full medical to make sure that we were fit and healthy and, you know, our heart rate was good and everything was ticking over okay. So that was good that we passed that.
Yeah, and then the next stage, even though we'd been accepted to go on the show and they decided that we were mentally capable, physically capable, we then had to get a visa, like the US visa. That turned into the biggest challenge of the whole thing because there was so many of us having to get it that they had to ship us all to Brussels. And it was all very last minute. Our flight got pushed back. It was all very tough, but we got it in the end. We got our visas, as you know, we were on the show, so obviously.
It was a big crew. It was like 30 plus crew involved in the production that all flew out to Alaska. And then how many? 6 couples.
Yeah, so
as
12 people.
All flying out to Alaska. So it's a really big deal. There's a lot of moving parts and we were in the dark quite a lot. We didn't know what to expect. The production team didn't want to ruin anything and they didn't tell us who the other couples were. They didn't tell us what we were going to win, really.
Well, we didn't know where it was in Alaska.
We didn't know who the couple were.
No, we didn't find out any of this kind of stuff until we got there. And it was actually the day before the show started, before we were shipped out, well, driven 100 miles or wherever it was to the camp, that we found out it was on OC Mountain, that we found out the name of the couple, that we found out the challenges we were going to be doing and all this sort of stuff. And understandably, they wanted to keep everyone in the dark, so we couldn't like pre-plan and figure everyone out that was going to be on there. Yeah. But it was funny because on the flight there, we did spot Matt and Rachel, because they obviously had to fly us all out.
Exactly. So they flew 2 couples, I think, on each flight. So that we weren't all on the same plane and like, oh, where are you going? Oh, Alaska. Oh, but you're from England. Oh, I know where you're going. So we couldn't talk to each other and, you know, we didn't... They wanted our first meeting to be in the camp and I think that was for the best.
Yeah, and then there's another question I wanted to answer before we're going to go into the episodes and talk about them and then we've got some more questions that we're going to answer because... Would you believe it? People have been asking us questions about it, understandably. And that was basically, we were told, and the whole premise of the show was it was a documentary.
Yeah.
And
that was drummed into us from day one. Guys, this is not reality. This is a documentary. We'll be following you, and it will be documentary based. And it turns out that wasn't the truth.
No, I mean, if you actually go on BBC iPlayer, the show is listed under lifestyle and then entertainment, not documentaries. And when we were there, when it was being filmed, it was obvious it was not a documentary. A lot of it was produced. We'd be told to say certain things, asked to repeat or ask certain questions and all this kind of stuff. So we got the gist that it wasn't exactly what we thought it was going to be. But
and the BBC is renowned for amazing documentaries. So I was so excited to be involved in a documentary, and then your heart kind of sinks when you're actually there and you just realise that this isn't a documentary at all.
But that being said, it was still a lot of fun, documentary or not.
Yeah, we had an amazing time. So many like interesting experiences, you know, going up on the boats, up the rivers and navigating through forests. It was just, it was an unbelievable experience.
It was. And we're going to talk all about it now. Right, episode 1 started at the crack of dawn, although actually there's no real dawn because it was 24-hour sunlight, so it was just kind of whatever, just daylight. And we drove all the way there.
They mic you up literally the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. So even when you're going to the toilet, whatever you're doing, you are mic'd up. So you never really get time alone.
When you're doing your morning movement and you're mic'd up, it's a little bit awkward. You just really hope that they weren't listening in. I mean, why would they? That'd be a bit weird. Yeah,
the sound men on this show were all really lovely, so I doubt they were listening to us taking a dump.
Yeah, so that's just, awkward.
But we started off, basically the 6 couples, they get taken to different areas and then you all hike in. But we got to go in on a boat and then hike from there, which was really good. It was really, the start. We got to go on this boat already over this beautiful lake. There was low mist.
Yeah, it was really cool actually. Theo's hat flew off in the wind because the boat was going that fast. It just went whoop.
It did. Luckily they didn't show that though.
No, they didn't. I wish they did.
We filmed a whole piece on why my hat flew off.
Yeah, and then obviously that just got cut. It wouldn't have made any sense.
And this is where it's like TV. We didn't go across the lake once on that boat. We went across 10 times so they could film it with the drone, so they could film it with multiple different angles. And the reason my hat flew off is because the person driving the boat had a radio and you could hear production going, give it some, accelerate. So they'd accelerate and my hat just went woof and off it flew. But it was funny nonetheless.
Was hilarious.
But then we got to camp and we met everyone.
We were the first there. We were the first ones there. I genuinely didn't think we would be the first ones. I thought there was other people there.
That was quite nice. I quite liked being the first and having a look around before anyone else.
Yeah, we got to have a look around the whole camp before anyone else got there. Settle in, choose the platform. We chose our platform first, so that was good.
Our platform was the furthest away from everyone else. We like our space.
Yeah.
We were kind of a little bit gutted that it was in a camp environment, and we think it would have been really cool if they segregated us all, because at the end of the day, homesteading is usually just the couple and you're going to be segregated on your own. So it would have been cool to see how you thrive as a couple and not always have tons of people around you all the time.
And especially as the show was all about you as a couple living potentially up at OC Mountain, 100 miles from the nearest road, all that kind of stuff. So it would have been cool to do that, but we were with everyone else, which was fine, but it just wasn't what we expected, really.
It did get tiring.
We're not used to being with
especially
people.
for me. Like, I don't really like big groups of people or being surrounded by people all of the time, and you as well. And that is why we like to live in remote places and out the way. And we love seeing people.
Yeah.
But for a short period of time, and then we can go back and do our own thing. So that was probably the hardest challenge of the whole competition, was just being surrounded by people. The challenges weren't hard at all.
No, so the first challenge, there was basically a challenge in every episode, the first 4 episodes anyway. And the first one was to put up our Alaskan wall tents. It was hammering it down with rain. That was probably what made it tough, because we were just drenched straight through to the bone.
It was quite cool. It was quite cool that it was pouring down with rain.
Yeah,
not
it
so
added
much
something.
for production, because I think they lost 2 of their cameras on the first day, which is never good, especially when you're in like quite a remote part of Alaska.
Yeah. The challenge itself was okay. Everyone worked together. I think production were really shocked that we actually all decided to do it as one team.
Yeah, exactly. We all just cracked on. You know, I felt like in that challenge I led a lot of it. I definitely split people into teams, and you know, me and Mark were at the forefront of getting everything sorted and getting the shelters up, and everyone chipped in, everyone did their thing. But there was definitely at the start a process that me and Mark went through, and a couple of the others, about how we were going to get this process done. And unfortunately I was completely cut out of the edit, and that's kind of a theme throughout all of the episodes, to be honest.
Yeah, we did get a lot of people saying that we were cut out of quite a lot of the show, but we were there.
There was also a lot of different mini challenges within each episode that never got used. So after we'd put up our shelters, we had to build a shower. We had to also build a pit toilet and dig a big hole for all of our wastewater to go.
Yeah, and sadly none of that was shown. And actually, the pit toilet was pretty cool.
It is hard because so each episode is actually filmed over 3 days.
Yeah.
So you imagine 3 days worth of footage from all the different GoPros. You've got the drone, and then you've got all the camera teams as well. So there's probably 6 different camera teams. So you got a crazy amount of footage, and trying to narrow that down into just 1 hour is incredibly tough.
Yeah, it was.
We know that from when we did our Kungsleden documentary. I think we had 18 hours of footage for 1 hour.
Yeah, that was really hard to cut down actually, and what you might think should be included might not necessarily be included, and there definitely were a lot of things that were cut out and a lot of things that were included, but we enjoyed episode 1. It was good to see, and it was kind of crazy to finally be watching it after it was filmed so long ago. And then the next episode...
Well, that episode, we did really well, and when CJ gave his feedback to Dwayne and Rena, we were right up there, you know.
Yeah.
True grit.
True grit and tenacity.
Theo and Bee.
Yeah, I remember them.
My first thought of Theo, he got true grit, I believe, because, you know, he hung out all day, didn't complain not one time, always helping Bee the same way. You know, she had the tenacity to get it done, and, you know, that says something for her, right?
Oh, yeah. They're all very impressive.
So, yeah, we didn't get chosen to go up to the mountain in the first episode, but at that stage we were just totally unworried. We knew that we were ideal for the whole thing, really. We knew we'd get a chance to go up to OC, so we weren't fussed on episode 1 that we didn't get picked.
It can maybe come across as cockiness, but it's not. It's just confidence, because, you know, we've lived off grid for so long, and all of the challenges we've pretty much done before, and, you know, we know what we're doing, so there was no reason to be nervous.
No, I never felt nervous. I never felt overwhelmed or out of my depth with any of the stuff. And production would ask a lot of the time, like when you were having your one-to-one interviews with them, oh, because have you done this now? Have you maybe changed your mind about how you feel about it?
But you know what? I think that worked against us, because we wasn't giving them sound bites that added the drama that they wanted. We were just like, no, this is completely fine. This is what we do every day. This is normal to us. And that, I guess, doesn't make exciting TV.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think we were too chilled out because we were too much in our element. But then going on to episode 2, this was one where I feel like we both really excelled. And it was really interesting, actually, because we were separated. into the men versus women group, and me and Theo did the exact same thing as each other, even though we weren't together, which was mad.
What you're looking at is impenetrable forest of doom.
With the dense vegetation making visibility in the forest so poor, the easiest and safest way through the first stage of the test is to follow one of the existing animal trails that have already cut paths into the thick foliage.
The shortest route through the forest would be my preference.
We don't even know, there might be a trail straight through, we haven't had a look. If a couple of us just walk a couple of 100 feet down there...
We're taking the straightest route.
But if we're picking a direct route, I can already see like big fallen trees.
But you've got to take the straightest route to start with, haven't you?
There's a trail there.
There is a trail there.
Yeah, that's the thing. So if that's too heavy, then we come back and we follow the trail and see if that gets us anywhere.
But why would... Yeah, okay, cool. It was really cool. We got to drive these big American trucks and, you know, up to the location, then get on these speedboats and go up the river, and then that's where the challenge started. We really needed to figure out how to get from A to B through this crazy forest, and I noticed a trail and you noticed a trail. Yeah. Unfortunately, the guys didn't listen to me and wouldn't listen to me and go down the trail, and the women, they did. They listened to you, and you went the right way.
With the foliage becoming too dense to walk through, the boys have doubled back and found a more accessible route.
I am speaking up, and I don't mean to do that as...
I'm not
trying to be an arsehole.
What you said at the beginning is where we're at now.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm not saying I'm going to be right in the next decision.
No.
But if we all speak up and discuss it, then communication.
Everybody needs a voice, exactly, 100%.
It's always follow the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
You don't want to risk injuring yourself when you could literally just follow something that's already made.
And
but
we have a background, don't we?
Yeah.
In
not that was touched upon in the show at all. No one has any idea that we actually do a lot of hiking and map reading and stuff, or did Kungsleden.
Yeah, it was frustrating because I feel like with these type of shows, you really want to invest in the people and you really want to learn more about the couples, so people can be like, oh, that's my favourite couple, I'm going to follow them through the series and hope they win. And there was no real introduction. We definitely didn't have an introduction until...
Episode 4. We didn't get an intro
4.
until episode 4.
Lifestyle bloggers Theo and Bee have been partners for 13 years, spending the last 5 of them living off-grid.
We've lived in tents, we've lived in boats, we've lived in vans. We're always together, and when you're in them kind of spaces, any problems that you do have, I think you have to sort them out instantly, because if you don't, it will just get worse. It's not like when you're in a house where you can just slam the door, not see each other for a day. And that's why we work so well as a team, I think. So you can imagine, you guys know who we are, but someone random who's never seen us before, don't know what we do, they're just like, oh, there's some lifestyle bloggers, which is what they called us. They didn't consult us on our kind of job title, and we're definitely not lifestyle bloggers. That's not what I would call us at all.
No.
Maybe something to do with alternative living, or a YouTuber or something is more suited to what we do, or video creator. So that was a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, that definitely was frustrating when we watched episode 1 and it said we were lifestyle bloggers. I was just a bit like, what the hell?
I think people who are watching the show don't know anything about us. We haven't had an introduction. We're just Theo and Bee, who are lifestyle bloggers.
Yeah.
So people just automatically assume we're not cut out for Alaska just because of that, making assumptions.
Yeah, so the really interesting thing that happened in episode 2, and that got a lot of people commenting on this, was the fact that after the challenge, me and Theo were completely cut out of the second half of the show. We just vanished. There was no explanation about where we were, what had happened, or anything. And we had a lot of people sending us comments saying, what happened? Why did you go? Were you okay? Or do you really not like guns? That's why you didn't go to the shooting range?
We had some people like literally sending us hate mail saying, you're not cut out for Alaska if you're not willing to shoot. And I'm like, I'm definitely willing to go to the range, but we didn't get the opportunity.
No.
Where we went off to a lovely couple called Johnny and Julie, and we helped them on their homestead for the day.
Yeah,
and it was an amazing opportunity.
Theo built a moose fence, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, 7-foot high moose fence. That was a really good opportunity.
Yeah, and I went around with Julie, helped her feed her chickens, and learn all about the different kind of like edible foliage and plants that you can eat in Alaska, which I think is really important when it comes to homesteading, because I think a lot of people think like, oh, if you eat meat, you can just go and shoot a deer and there you go, you're sorted for dinner. But hunting is not that easy. You can't just go and get dinner. It's not that easy. You really need to know your environment. So I was really into getting to know the different kind of things, that you can forage. So that was really cool.
They had an amazing, like, self-built refrigerator.
Yeah, they did. It was so
underground
cool.
refrigerator is really good. And their land was actually 100 acres big, so it's massive.
It was massive, and
they'd built their own log cabin.
Yeah, they'd built their own log cabin. It was really nice to see. It was a heck of a lot smaller than the one Dwayne and Rena did, which meant it was manageable, and they actually had finished what they'd started. So I thought that was really cool.
It was
and that's the only cabin we got to see.
It was really cool because they built it with a flat roof, so they can just basically add one more story to it.
Yeah.
If and when they get time, which I thought was really clever.
Yeah, it was really cool. And it was just really sad that that was totally cut out, because they gave up their entire day to be on film and all the time going in and out of organising it and stuff. So that was really sad that it wasn't shown.
But that's the storyline. I think they could have told the story of where we'd gone, but that would have made it seem... That would have not made it seem like we didn't want to go shooting. Yeah. So I think instead they just cut us completely and let the audience decide basically where we were.
So we were gone basically for the rest of episode 2. So that was that. And
episode 3.
Yeah, episode 3. Probably the least challenging challenge of the lot, definitely.
It was a lot like gardening.
It was gardening.
Chopping back, we basically had to build a trail through a small forest for some dog mushers.
I mean, that was really cool. Getting to see that.
You got to go on there,
Yeah,
didn't
I
you?
got to go on the quad bike after we'd cut the trail, and it was so fun, and it was so amazing to sit on the back. And when she said her special words to the dogs, they all jumped into line and in formation. It was really, really cool experience, and one that I really do treasure. And cutting it...
Oh, we need to go back to episode 2, I'm sorry.
Oh, why? What have we forgotten?
So episode 2, like, I don't know why we skipped this, but we did amazingly. We did amazingly on that one, and we definitely should have gone up in that that episode to OC Mountain.
I definitely felt like we did do very well in that challenge, and I did genuinely think that we were going to get picked that time.
Yeah, there was a really funny comment in there by one of the wilderness experts. His name's Cutter, and apparently he does like search and rescue missions around Alaska and stuff like that. So that's really cool and like very brave of him, and he obviously knows what he's talking about. But I have to disagree on the most random comment. It was almost like they were just finding any way to bring us down. You could do as good as possible. You could literally win the challenge and they would still find something negative to say about you. And this is the clip that really got to me.
So Theo did say that it was a good idea to hold to the path, and he did keep trying to pull people back towards it. But it doesn't matter if you're right if nobody follows you. Technically correct is less important than effective leadership.
We just could not understand the point that he was trying to make with that comment. It was really odd.
There was no logic whatsoever, and in the clip he did look quite pale, so I don't know if he was he was feeling ill or something, but the comment made no sense whatsoever. I mean, to me, being technically correct is very important, because if someone follows you off the side of the cliff, then that doesn't make you a born leader.
It doesn't make you a good leader either, because you've then killed everyone. So.
And there was a lot of premise on, you know, being a leader and being a born leader. And actually, I think I lead really well. I've always run my own companies and led people who have worked for me and stuff like that. But you don't need to be a leader when you're living in the middle of nowhere, 100 miles from the nearest road, and it's just us two. We just need to work well together.
Yeah, which we do. And that's the thing that I also found very interesting. There was no challenges where it was just the couples, except for the last challenge.
I think the challenges should have been a lot harder, and it should have just been the couples, and mark the couples individually on how they do as a couple, because people can hide in the groups, people definitely on challenges where they weren't as good at certain things, they would definitely take a backseat and hide behind other people. And I think the one thing that we managed to do throughout every challenge is be consistent. We were right at the top of every challenge. But anyway, that was a very strange remark from Cutter, and I'd love to speak to him one day about what he really meant, because I just don't understand it.
Getting back onto episode 3, after we'd done the challenge and not got picked, obviously we knew we only had one more chance after that, and to be honest, I still wasn't really that worried, because I just thought out of the last couples that were remaining, we were the strongest because we had so much experience and all that kind of stuff.
And picking someone in episode 3 just on that particular challenge, you know, it was tough because everyone just chipped in equal measures, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, we all did well, we all chipped in. I think it took about 3 hours. We just got on with it, and something we're really good at is just not complaining and just getting the job done, and
Yeah.
I think we really achieved that.
And then, it wasn't a challenge, but the next part of that episode was going to the bison ranch, I suppose you'd call it.
Yeah, I've definitely got mixed feelings about that situation.
If you've not read our blog post, then you won't know the backstory about how we ended up at the bison place.
And I think on the blog post we definitely articulate it probably better than we are going to now. But we were given the opportunity to go and learn about, you know, I don't know, how would you explain it?
Butchery, killing an animal, because when we applied for the show we knew there was going to be something involving hunting. We just knew that was going to come up.
Yeah, it's Alaska.
And also, we were planning at this stage, we still were really wanting to win this place, and we knew that if we were up in the middle of nowhere in Alaska, an opportunity a circumstance might arise where for some reason we kill an animal in self-defense, or we're starving to death and we've got to hunt.
And you don't want to waste that animal.
No, I don't want to kill an animal, firstly, doing it wrong, and then secondly, not knowing what the hell to do with it. So this was a really good opportunity for us to go and try it out, basically.
The only problem was we were basically misled, lied to, basically, on the premise of the bison and why it was going to get shot.
Yeah.
We were told that it was an angry bison disrupting the herd, and that it needed to be put down, basically, and that's what we believed.
Yeah.
We believed them. When we got there, we were quite upset before the filming, because we said to one of the producers, we were like, oh, so what's going on with the angry bison? And they just kind of looked away and were like,
oh, it's too angry, it's already been dealt with.
And that's when we started asking more questions, and actually we now know that there was never an angry bison, and they just kind of lured us in.
Yeah, so that left me kind of with a bit of a funny feeling, because we were now at this place where basically you could just pay to kill an animal and butcher it yourself.
It's very expensive as well. I think $4,000 or $5,000, I think, to basically go in a Jeep, drive along, put food out for the bison and just shoot it. It's not something that is nice at all.
No, and it's
and you said in the show, you said it's hunting for lazy people.
Well, it is.
And that's exactly what it is.
It is, because you're not having to spend possibly days waiting outside in the Alaskan bush, scouring out an animal, waiting for it to come past and then shooting it. Instead, it's just hopping onto the back of a truck, going into the field, putting some food down, luring them over, and then just shooting one.
Yeah,
Anyone. I was really surprised when I asked him, why did you go for that one? He was like, oh, it was just standing there too long.
There's definitely not a lot of skill involved in doing something like that. And we were met with such, what would you say?
It was hostility.
Yeah, it felt very hostile.
It's just the age-old, oh, you're a vegetarian, so obviously
you're gonna cry.
You're an emotional wreck and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, can we just not forget for a second that we're all human beings and we all have emotions? And
if you eat meat or you're a vegetarian, your emotions don't change.
Yeah.
It's a personal thing.
If you're watching an animal die and you don't feel sad, then there's clearly something missing, because it's an emotion. Like, death is sad. Death should not be laughed at. It's not funny. It's serious. And you really should respect the animal that you're killing. So for him to say, oh, you're going to be crying under the truck, really did irritate me, and did put us on, I suppose, kind of like you're on the defence because you're like, I don't want to prove this person right.
We did not feel welcome, and it's
No.
their ranch, and we didn't feel welcome at all. But
No.
we carried on, we persevered, and we did a really good job. And at the end, we proved them wrong.
Yeah,
So that was a win for us.
Any vegetarians?
Pescatarian.
Pescatarian. That's going to be our crier.
We'll see. We'll soon find out, won't we?
We're on holiday again.
Now, I worked in a vet's for well over a year. I did hundreds of surgeries. I assisted in putting down so many animals. I'm really, really well acquainted with death, with the insides, the bloods and guts, everything. So that kind of scenario does not affect me, and I'm very good at being able to control how I feel around that kind of stuff. I'm not squeamish. I'm not going to vomit if a bit of poo goes on me or some blood or anything like that. But for me, it was such an interesting thing. Hunting in the UK is so different to hunting in the States. And in the UK, it's not something that...
It's a very wealthy thing to do in the UK.
It is. Like, normal people like us, it's not something that we do.
No.
Whereas in the States, it's like such a normal thing for people to go out and go hunting and get a deer and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was definitely an interesting experience, and I'm very happy that I know how to successfully gut an animal and butcher it and skin it and all that kind of stuff.
And our thinking behind that, like Bee said, was if we won OC Mountain and we were up there and for some reason we got attacked, or we had to act in self-defense, if we won OC Mountain, we're not going out and hunting for food. That's not something we would do, and it's not something we would need to do.
No.
So we've had a lot of comments off people saying, you have to eat meat if you live on OC Mountain, and that's not correct at all. They get their food flown in once a month by a bush plane, and if we move there, we would do exactly the same.
Yeah, so do you really think that Dwayne and Rena, who are both this elderly couple who are
In their
having
70s.
to move from there because of their age, they're still out there hunting deer and everything for their dinner? No, definitely not. They have a really... I know Dwayne really likes Fanta. Do you think he's just hunting that out in OC Mountain? No, you get stuff shipped in, like Theo said. So you can get anything shipped in. You could get a month's supply of rice and beans if that's what you want, and you can live off that perfectly fine. So I think people really need to remember that in this day and age, it's not the same.
It's changed.
As
Things
being
have evolved.
there, 100 years ago.
So basically, they get all their shopping done in Fairbanks, and we spent some time in Fairbanks looking around, and we went around some of the supermarkets, and we found a really cool co-op supermarket that would look like it was run by a load of hippies. It was a really cool place, and it sold all the vegetarian and vegan options you could dream of.
Yeah.
So if we live there, we could always just fly in all of the stuff that we need. And actually, I think if you're vegetarian, you can grow a lot more stuff. You eat a lot more plant-based.
Yeah.
And food generally would last longer. You
Yeah.
don't need to refrigerate stuff. It's a lot easier being vegetarian/vegan.
Yeah,
So
I'm fairly sure that one of the couples that went up there that was chosen to go up to OC Mountain had frozen cooked hamburgers for dinner.
Yeah.
So that obviously was not hunted up at OC Mountain. So I think people really need to just take a step back when they talk about stuff like that, because you've got to remember there's always a bigger picture and there's always alternatives. It's never just black and white. It's never that simple.
Yeah.
And that was the end of episode 3.
Yeah. I think, like, coming back onto, like, the homesteading side of things, homesteading is quite a boring thing for a lot of people, and it doesn't make that interesting TV. And when we signed up for this, we were told that it's definitely not survival based, and it turns out it was pretty much all survival based.
Yeah.
But I think they just couldn't find interesting content to make in homesteading.
Yeah.
But also, homesteading takes a certain type of person. It's very much like farming. You're going to have to get up early, you're going to have late nights, and you're going to have to just crack on, grow crops, do monotonous tasks, look after your animals.
Build gates, fences, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so it's quite hard mentally, I think. You've got to be a really driven person to do that, and I think that's definitely a quality that we have. We can get up every morning and love what we do. If you need someone to tell you what you need to do, and you work for someone else, then I don't think homesteading is the thing for you. If you're a master procrastinator, then homesteading. You're not.
No, I'm not. I'm not because I've got you. If I was on my own, I would be.
Yeah, I whip her into shape. But basically, you need to be driven and you need to get up in the morning, because otherwise your chickens are going to be locked away. You need to let them out. There's so many different homesteading things that are just so monotonous and boring.
Well,
so
yeah, especially up there, you've got to basically spend the whole summer chopping wood and the whole winter burning it.
And I think that's something that they couldn't show on the TV, is the mental side of things. So there's no way, being in Alaska and filming a TV show for a month, you can see how someone's going to cope mentally being alone, like literally not seeing another human being for a few months at a time. It's not something that you can really show until you've actually done it.
I also wanted to touch on the fact that on all of the reviews, like the TV guides, the interviews and everything, when they found out there was lifestyle bloggers going on there, how are they going to cope up there without internet?
There is internet.
Of course there's internet up there. If any of you guys have watched the show, you'll have heard of the couple that lived there, Dwayne and Rena. Dwayne is very active on the internet. He's on there, online, up at OC. So, yes, we could more than definitely carry on what we do, blogging.
Satellite internet, perfectly fine. Upload our videos. And
our blogs.
There were, all the couples had to kind of say a business plan. And they wanted to know our business plan before we'd even seen OC Mountain or what it was. And, like,
that's hard.
As a person who's run lots of different businesses, you can't just come up with a business without seeing a place or knowing its qualities, or knowing how hard it actually is to get to, or expensive, because each flight one way to get to OC Mountain from Fairbanks in a bush plane is over $1,000. So that's definitely a cost that if you are out there and you want to run some sort of tourism thing, then it's going to be expensive and you're going to need pretty wealthy clientele. For us, our business plan was just, I feel, the strongest, because we could go there and from day one we would be making money via vlogging, and we would vlog our experience there.
Yeah, continue doing what we do.
Really simple business plan, really simple process, and it's worked for us so far. So we'd just carry on that.
Yeah.
But I definitely heard some interesting business plans from the others.
Moving on to episode 4, which was actually the biggest survival challenge yet of the non-survival homesteading competition show. It was actually the one we looked forward to the most.
It's so exciting. When we found out that we were going to be going and hiking past the glacier and, camping up for the night, it was just incredible. And we saw a coyote.
Yeah,
and
it was brilliant.
Oh, it was so good. It was
seeing the bear print right next to the river, right next to where we were going to be camping. I was so excited. And they didn't show it on camera, but not far from our camp was a carcass of a moose that had been eaten by a bear or wolves. I think it was probably a bear.
Lots of moose poo.
There was a lot of moose poo. We saw a lot of moose poo absolutely everywhere. We saw moose everywhere as well, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Around camp. But anyway, getting back to that challenge, it was so good. When they literally told us, we're taking your stuff, I whooped with joy. They cut that out, obviously, because you can't look too eager with this kind of thing.
We were really excited that we were going to build our own shelter and stay in it overnight, and in -degree temperatures.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do that. Yeah. Not necessarily in -degree temperatures, but I've always wanted to build my own shelter to see if I would enjoy it. And oh my gosh, I slept the best I slept the whole time we were there.
We did. It was a lovely night's sleep. We built a really good shelter.
Oh yes.
But all is not what it looks on TV. So the start of that process, they said, right, go and find an area, and the area was tiny. Basically enough for 3 people.
Don't forget, production was incredibly protective of us. If you've seen that episode, you will have heard CJ say there's no electric fence here. We've just got the dog to protect us from bears. So honestly, if you went just a step out of the designated safe zone,
they would shout at you.
Production would be shouting at you, "B, don't go any further, don't go any further, there's bears, blah blah, blah, blah. So we were really limited to the area we could be in.
And we found out on the actual episode that it was a timed process.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
And they never told us that it was timed or anything.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're building a survival shelter, how fast you do it and how elaborate you build it is all relevant to the circumstances.
100%.
So if it's pouring down with rain, then obviously you get the emergency blanket up and you build a little bivvy and you tuck away and try and stay dry.
Yeah.
But the conditions were good. We weren't losing light because obviously it's 24-hour daylight. So we had enough time to build a really nice, comfortable shelter for the night.
We did.
But before we built the shelter, they told us to go and look for an area, and then they pulled us away for 15 minutes to have an interview, which meant the other two couples had already started building their shelter before we could even find our area, so there was only one area we could actually go. Our area just happened to have a dead tree, which was a bit frustrating, but having a dead tree there is not a problem if it's small enough to push over. So what I did is I was like, should we go and have a look for another spot? You said there isn't another spot.
There was nowhere.
So I just pushed the dead tree straight over, and that didn't come across in the edit.
Well,
they
didn't
made
show
it sound like we moved to another area because there was a dead tree, and I think actually that was a really good thing to push the dead tree down. When we were on the Kungsleden, we were in these positions in real life where we had to sleep in a forest full of dead trees, and I went and pushed them all down because you know, they're called Widowmakers for a reason.
Yeah, and those ones in Sweden were... basically the whole forest was just dead. It was tipping it down with rain. It was really late and darkness was falling, and we'd started to set up camp in an area that was just so unsafe. So all of the trees got pushed down that were like within range of dropping on us in the night, because the last thing you want is to wake up dead.
And off camera, after we'd done the filming, CJ came over and he was loving our shelter. So I don't know what got to him when it actually came to filming, and he was saying, oh, our shelter's too elaborate.
Humongous and luxurious.
Yeah.
So Theo and Bee, at the end of the night, Theo and Bee had this humongous shelter that, you know, I felt it was just more than what they really needed to survive.
I mean, is that a bad thing that it's luxurious? Like, it was really comfortable. We were really warm that night, even though it dropped below minus temperatures. And some of the other couples were complaining that they were cold and it was uncomfortable. So there was a few different things in that challenge that didn't really make sense.
Well,
so
what frustrated me immensely was hearing Cutter
yeah,
basically slate us for saying we were using our reflective blanket on the ceiling of our tent shelter and not on the floor.
So let's cut to the clip now.
As soon as we've got enough of that stuff ready to go on top, then we can lay the emergency blanket over it.
Yeah.
And also we can sleep on an emergency blanket and it will reflect the heat up to it.
All the thinking.
As far as I can see, they're putting all their insulation on top.
Right.
Where their heat's going to leave is through the ground.
That's why it's worth taking the time to cut a lot of spruce boughs to get up off the ground. So, and if it pours rain on us, the above shelter, all it's got to do is shed that rain.
So on that clip there, obviously you just saw me say I'm going to use a reflective blanket to bounce the heat upwards, and we had a reflective blanket on the top to bounce the heat the other way so we'd stay nice and warm, and it actually really worked. But then they cut to a shot of Cutter saying, oh, they've only used one emergency blanket and they haven't put one on the floor. It just seemed really sloppy editing, and from that moment you just realised that they had nothing on us to make us look bad. So that's all they could say, really.
Yeah. And then we were kicked out, and that's it. The journey's over.
There was a lot of contradictory comments in the edits. So obviously in that task, we used both our emergency blankets, but one of the other couples forgot one of their emergency blankets, and forgetting an emergency item is quite a big deal. So obviously they couldn't put an emergency blanket on the floor to reflect the heat back up. But for them, the comment was, oh, they adapted and they only used the one emergency blanket that they had.
Yeah. Even though that they didn't bring one of their emergency blankets, they adapted, they overcome, they improvised, and they did well.
They're going to have a comfortable night.
It all seems really dependent on what couple do certain things. They will either slate you for it or they'll love you for it, and it just so happens we would get slated. And I've read quite a few comments from people, and they were like, you know what, I think you had a black mark next to your names instantly from the second you said you were vegetarian.
And it's really sad as well, the way it was edited. From episode 2, basically people could figure out that we didn't make it up the mountain.
Yeah, so we get emails from the BBC production team and they say, guys, we don't want you to, give any spoilers away. But literally, we've got people emailing us constantly going, I know you don't go up the mountain because everyone else
has been shown in the plane.
And it's just so obvious. And the editing is just so rough and sloppy. It almost feels like it's a, what's the word? Like a pilot, pilot series to see if they're going to do it again. But yeah, it just seemed very sloppy. And, the fact people were actually annoyed also with the thumbnail on iPlayer. It actually would show, so you're about to watch a TV show where you're trying to figure out who's going to go up in the plane, and the thumbnail is the person or the couple who go up in the plane. And I saw a lot of tweets saying, they already know and it's kind of spoiled it for them. So that was a shame, really. We did our best and we haven't given anything away, and we went with it and we didn't give any spoilers. But the BBC, they were giving spoilers themselves.
So with the final challenge, we definitely thought that we had it in the bag.
100%. Like we smashed that challenge
really
again.
Well. Yeah, we did. We smashed it.
For me, it's all about consistency. When you're on OC Mountain, you're going to have to be consistent in lots of different things. You can't just be good at one thing. We're definitely good all round, and I think that showed on each episode. When CJ feeds back to Dwayne and Rena, we were always up there in the top 3.
Yeah.
But having someone like CJ who relays information back, just one guy relaying information back to Dwayne and Rena, who kept saying it was so important for them to pick the right couple, but were relying on random information from one source. It just seemed really, really odd. And I'm a very good judge of character, and I did not get a good vibe from CJ from the start. Like, we didn't click at all, and I think that didn't help us. He almost seemed jealous of our lifestyle when I tell him stories. There was one situation where he was trying to tell me about wet wood in a wood burner will make smoke, and I was kind of like, yeah, I lived on a boat for 3 years with the only source of heat coming from a wood burner, and he was kind of a bit like, oh. So there was lots of situations like that where I tell him about our lives, and it felt like jealousy, and the fact that I'm not a really manly man and I dress like the colour of a rainbow probably didn't help me,
I find it really interesting that the 2 couples that didn't make it up, which was me and you and Laura and Jerome, were men who weren't mega manly men.
Me and you and Laura were all vegetarian.
And we were all vegetarian except for Jerome. And you and Jerome weren't the mega manly men, didn't have mega manly jobs or any of that kind of thing. So I do feel like it was used against us.
Also, Laura is she's very heavily involved in climate change and doing research on that topic. And when Dwayne came down to give his speech to us all around the table, he said that he doesn't believe in climate change. So from the start, they weren't going to be selected.
No, exactly. And that's just unfortunate. And that's another thing that I wanted to get onto. So once we found out that we weren't going up to the mountain, We never found out why, and still to this day we do not know why, and I don't think we're ever going to find out why, because we've asked numerous people, we've asked production, we've asked Dwayne himself, and everyone's just skirted it back to, oh, this person will tell you. You'll find out when you watch the show. Oh, I just went off what CJ told me.
Yeah, so Dwayne told me that he went off what CJ told him, and we all know by watching the show, CJ did not tell the story of our kind of full potential of what we gave. That was just lost, definitely lost in translation. It's almost like Chinese whispers a little bit, because when we did the navigation test, Cutter was marking my team, or like the men, and CJ was with the women. So Cutter would relay information to CJ, then CJ would relay information to
Dwayne and
Rena, and by the time it gets there, who knows what was said? We only see what's in the edit, so we don't really know what was talked about.
No, we'll never know, I don't think, and it's a shame, because obviously we put our lives on hold to go on this show, and it was fantastic. It was such a good experience. I'm so happy we got to do it, but I would just like some closure, and I'd like to know why we didn't get a chance to go up there, because...
And production said that, you know, wait until the show's out, you'll find out why. But actually, in the edit, it just went from CJ telling Dwayne and Rena about what he thought, and then that was it. We were kicked off. I would have liked to see Dwayne and Rena give a really in-depth kind of comment in why they didn't think we were suitable, because I know 100% we are suitable.
Definitely. Like, we wouldn't have applied if we weren't suitable. We could be there straight away. We could be making money straight away.
We'd be there now, no doubt.
We would be there now, and unfortunately instead OC sits empty.
Right, let's answer some questions.
Yeah, we've got... Basically, we put out online, has anyone got any questions that they want to know, anything about the show? So let's get into it.
So this isn't really a comment, it's more of a statement. We've had quite a lot of people saying to us that we should just be grateful that we've got our land in Portugal and we've got a camper van as well, and we can travel around. And I do understand where they're coming from. We are in a really good situation, but the reason we are in this situation is because we haven't just we're definitely grateful for what we've got, don't get me wrong, but we're the type of people who like to put ourselves, you know,
under strain.
Yeah, in uncomfortable positions, and, you know, try and achieve different things. Like, we're definitely very motivated, driven people, and I think that comes across.
Yeah.
So if we were just happy with what we had, then we would probably just live on our land in Portugal for the rest of our lives, grow some food and potter about, but that's not us.
Yeah, the thing with us is we still don't fully know what we want in life.
Life is a journey, you know.
Life is a journey. This is getting so philosophical suddenly. Life's a journey, guys.
It is. It's like life.
It is a journey.
And it's also feels like a game as well. You've got to play it, and I believe...
You're a game player.
I believe that, you know, the journey is the most important thing. People are always like, oh, well, when I get this, I'm going to be happy, or when I do this, I'm going to be happy, and that's not the case. When you get there, you realise that you feel the same, and you definitely have to set goals for yourself, and we definitely do that, and we know roughly what we want to do in the next few years.
Yeah, we do, but that constantly changes.
Exactly.
If we hadn't gone to Alaska, and I'm going to say this now because this is 100% the truth, it wasn't until we were sitting on a tree stump having our last interview with mosquitoes flying around, feeling really kind of pissed off, to be truthful. You know, we've been kicked out, didn't get to see the mountain. And the guy who was interviewing us, he goes, "You've really dodged a bullet, actually. I don't think that this is right for you guys." And we were just kind of like...
Yeah, it really made us think,
okay.
And it kind of opened our minds again, and we were like, you know what, we're going to drive to Alaska.
We're going to actually drive here instead, because we've just, you know, by this stage, we hadn't even been living in this van for a year, and we were like, we've got this van that we love, that we've converted for the better part of 2018. we should totally just drive it here.
Exactly.
Why not? And after, we are in the perfect situation because at the moment we make our money online. We basically make our money from living our lives. So it's like, why not challenge ourselves by shipping the van and us and the cat over to Canada and drive here instead? So that's literally why we ended up deciding to do it, and we are shipping our van end of March. It's happening.
And I think that some people think just because we've got land in Portugal that we're just going to stay on the land for the rest of our lives and retire there. That's not us. That's not what we're going to do.
No.
We've got so many things that we want to achieve and so many different experiences we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not in our nature to do that. So Portugal is definitely a very exciting project, but it's not a forever project for us.
No, and we're so flexible. Things literally change year by year, day by day, second by second. So that's just the way we are. And that's the way we enjoy living life at the moment anyway.
It's like when someone buys their first house, they generally don't stay in that house for the rest of their lives. They buy a different house in a different area, or they try something new, maybe live in a van. So again, it comes back to the journey, and that's the most important thing. You've got to make the journey as exciting as possible.
Right, let's get on to the next one. Oh, we've just answered the next one by accident. Did the show inspire our next trip?
Definitely.
Heck yes, it did. Okay, why was it just British people, not Americans, on the show?
So the reason it was just British people, British couples on the show is because the BBC is a British company, and therefore they have to have people that the British audience can actually relate to. I think if it was just like Alaskans fighting for an Alaskan house, it wouldn't really make any sense.
No, definitely not. And I think it was more interesting having British people because life in Britain's nothing like life in Alaska.
No.
Right, last question is... this is a good one. How much did the BBC pay you to go on this show?
So this is a massive question that we've had in our inbox. People messaging us saying, it's unfortunate that you didn't go to OC Mountain, but at least you got paid really well to go on the show. How much did we get paid, Bea?
We got paid a whopping £1. They've not actually paid us yet, and it was nearly a year ago.
They did pay our expenses. The reason they paid us £1, you might be wondering, is something to do with UK contract law. But it actually cost us money because we had to buy all new gear and stuff like that.
We had to put the van into storage and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it did cost us, but we didn't go on the show wanting any money. We just went on it for a great experience, and we wanted to see Alaska and hopefully win a vlog cab.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been really cool.
It didn't work out.
Didn't work out, but it worked out for the better.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note, we're going to end today's video because I think we've probably waffled on
a bit long.
Yeah, more than enough time.
If you're still watching, congratulations.
Yeah, well done. You can have the pound, actually. No, I'm joking. I don't have the pound.
But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found that interesting. We had the most incredible time in Alaska. We're very happy that we went on the show. It was an amazing experience. And we're just excited for our next experience, which you know by now is shipping the van to Canada.
Yeah.
The next video that's coming out, we're leaving the land very soon and we are heading back to England so that we can ship the van all the way to Canada.
See you on the next video.